The Wrestling Underground podcast. We've been off for a little while. Nothing, just kind of been a few days. Basically, what happened was we had some issues with the website. I thought I corrected those issues with the website. Essentially, what happened was that the website was down. It was a server issue, so our server's GoDaddy. So reached out to him. Hey, you know, thing is bad. Can you fix the thing? The lady's like, sure, we can fix the thing. 20 minutes later, the thing's fixed. Cool. I hang up. It's the end of March. I have a crap ton of work I still have to do to meet my quotas. Work all the way through until April 1st. Don't even bother checking on the website. Then I find out on April 2nd, or whenever it was I sent you that text last week, that all the links are dead. This motherfucker's been a 10-year project. If this thing is dead, there ain't no coming back. So I'm like, So I'm working, I'm busy, and I finally find time today to reach out to GoDaddy, thinking this is going to be a long, arduous process, and I'm going to need backed up files. And 5 minutes later, the site's fixed. I'm just like, God damn it! Took me 5 fucking minutes to reach out to Sanjay of GoDaddy, and boom, Sanjay helped out a brother. Good on you, Sanjay. Appreciate it. So now everything's back to normal. I'm just kind of sitting here stewing like, it literally took me 5 minutes. That's it. First issue took me 20. This time took me 5. I thought it was going to take me twice as long as the first issue. No, 5 minutes. So, needless to say, we were off for a few days. Now we're back. We got a My Hero Academia podcast coming. It was still accessible, so I exported it to YouTube, so we'll be able to get that up on the website this week. We'll be back on Saturday for another edition of the Nerd Corp podcast, as well as a new recording of the Game Core Retro Review. But tonight is Wrestling Underground. I don't want to say WrestleMania special, because it's not special anymore. WrestleMania's not special. It's just not. But we're going to talk about it because kind of like that ex-girlfriend who's just horrific toxic behavior and her toxic femininity, we can't let it go, and we need to talk about it at least once a year to excise our wounds and to make sure that all of the vile and bile and venom and what have you is properly excised. So here we are talking about WrestleMania. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porter. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, we're back. How are you?
Doing okay, man. Glad to be back. What would be our nerd corp journey if it didn't have these kind of hiccups? But we always find a way to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I think I spelled Will Ospreay wrong, but like, whatever. I really don't care. If you
Like the name of the championship, it's all bad.
Right? Like, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? So that's actually our first story of the day. We only have 2 stories, and yet it's going to take us 90 minutes. Fucking bet. I wish it didn't. I know it's going to. So, anyway, Will Ospreay is your new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. That's certainly a thing that has become a thing, and yes, it is what it is. I think the biggest kind of point of contention, however, was not so much that he won the belt, because I think there's still a big support staff for him, big support group for him, but it's that Will Ospreay now has the ugliest title in all of the world. It's like some kind of weird fever dream, some Iggy Azalea / Beyonce / Bad Bunny fucking winged eagle version of a title. Like they looked at the winged eagle WWF Championship and like, how can we make that trashy? And they pulled it off, because that's one fucking ugly belt. Marcus, we'll talk about the Ospreay win here in a second, but just when you saw the belt for the first time, like what were you thinking?
I was thinking somebody really tried to level up the old Divas Championship.
It's not good. I will say this. It does evoke emotion of, like, anime title cards. Like the first one that I was thinking of is Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, which granted was the Americanized name of that series, but like it's very
Yeah, it,
prominent.
yeah. It looked like it'd be the perfect like final boss fight title for like the final fight in like Ultimate Muscle.
Yep. Yep, I could see that. It looks like a Pokemon crown. Ash Ketchum can't win that one. So it's not good. It's got protruding wings. It's very heavy on the gold. I don't know,
It's
man.
yeah. Really, I mean, on the foundational point, without just cracking at it, really, it just feels and looks too gaudy for the prestige that comes with the New Japanness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you look at because they basically combine the IWGP Heavyweight and the Intercontinental, and those belts alone, respectively, are far more stunning than that title.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically the IC. So it's like I get it, but in the end, was it like I get the notion and the idea, and I read the reasoning behind it or whatever, or at least the one they put out, and I get it. But ultimately, was it worth it? I guess that's what it means. Because just because you make something flashy and you add stuff to it, that doesn't necessarily mean it increases the quality of it. You know,
I haven't even bothered reading what their explanation was. So what was their explanation?
like just adding, just paraphrasing, but like bringing in like all the legacy of the former IWGP champions, and then the same thing, basically the same thing with the IC. And somebody tweet like basically what this does is like all the IC champions are now basically recognized as world heavyweight champions, and it hit me specifically because like of course this is how Goto would eventually become a world champion. Like it feels like this being Goto's way of being recognized as the world champion is the most Goto thing ever. I was like, you know what? I want to be mad, but this feels like the whole save Mothra type of thing. I can't be mad. It's good,
Save
but
Mothra.
Mothra.
Why'd you say that name?
Oh my god, man. But yeah, that's basically me very low level paraphrasing it. And like I said, I get it, combining the legacies, and we had a discussion on was there really a need to separate the titles in the first place? And I think you made a good argument for why you might combine them after all this time. But then when you put that title as a definitive thing of here we go, it's like, you know what? Bad idea.
It's certainly not a good one. The silver doesn't help. I find silver in titles really isn't the grand idea. Like you can do a little bit, like the old or the current NWA title has a little silver in like the rounded portion on top of it. But like you think about like the big gold belt or the WWE Unified Championship from 2002 to 2005 until it was changed to that ugly spinner belt. They didn't have silver in those. It was black and gold. Impact's first title. I'm trying to remember exactly what it looked like because I've now being haunted by this ugly ass New Japan title. But all right, so yeah, now I remember. Black and gold. And Impact's first title was amazing. The newer ones with the blue and the red trim, respectively, I don't have an issue with, but I wouldn't say that I would stand for those. Like the first one, absolutely. Like I love that
Yeah,
because
okay.
it was so reminiscent of the WCW big gold belt. The second one, however, with the big TNA on it and the one that like became very synonymous with the company during the Hogan era, my least favorite of all of them because I didn't like the gaudiness that the silver contrasted with the gold. And apparently New
Yeah.
Japan thought that was a great combos, and they went and did it themselves. And I'm sitting here going, why? So the title is bad. It's not as bad as it could have been, because like there's been some bad title belts in the world of pro wrestling. This might be the best of the worst, though, or the worst of the best, whichever way you want to phrase it. Like, there's certainly uglier belts. And I don't think necessarily on its own it's the worst I've ever seen. But with the expectation of what this belt was going to be, with the prestige of the company behind it, and what it means to have this new unified title, because they've never had a world title before. So
Yeah.
I think it's more of a disappointment than it is outright bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you want to say it's something. It's like I said, it's just obviously both of those titles, respectively, had their own legacies. Um, and like I said, even just the designs alone, because less has always kind of been more with New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Their belts have never been plain Jane by any stretch, but they've always had a uniqueness to those individual titles. And with this, I don't. Like I said, it just has a level of gaudiness to it that's never really fit with the overall brand of New Japan. And obviously, you kind of get used to anything over time. Obviously, we had a discussion, I think, not so long ago about the new WWE style belts, and I think I said I kind of preferred that first OG WWE title when they got away from the spinner belt. Um, when The Rock debuted, that one with the big
Mm-hmm.
champion going across. I think that was my preferred version, as opposed to what they have now. And then obviously, I think we even went into how do you feel about this contrasting with the new U.S. belt?
The new WWE US belt.
Yeah.
I think I prefer it to the US belt. The US belt, again, it's one of those, they got it right the first time. Like back in NWA WCW, it was a kind of a, I don't want to say a hexagonal, but it was a kind of like a building shape almost. There was a centerpiece and then two edges, kind of like a castle, and then it was like straight edges, and then kind of like formed a nice little roundingness on the bottom. And in the middle, there was an eagle with its wings spread out, and then above it was a little tiny American flag. And I loved it. I thought it was the coolest belt. Like, that's the belt I always wanted, like that or the TV title, because it had like a cool pattern on it. But then it goes to the WWE, and it's just like this giant, ugly ass flag belt. And I'm like, ugh. And then they changed it to this new one, and I'm just like, it's not better. It's somehow worse, but it's not better. And I think this belt from New Japan is better than the US belt from WWE. But that's kind of like saying, do I want to have my toe chopped off? There we go. Or do I want it shot off? I'm still losing a toe. It's not exactly a win-win for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. What about you? Which one do you prefer?
I think right now I gotta say the U.S. But like I said, I prefer the less bedazzledness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And um, to be fair to this new WIGB title, I've had longer to sit with the U.S. and time tends to wash away things. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna do it with this because I feel like this is gonna always be a thing where, like I said, it kind of, and I think Big Swole from AEW tweeted this too. Is like you're not gonna tell me like that's not like a bedazzled uptick version of the Divas Championship. Um, but like I said, that middle faceplate, that the overall faceplate does have that old shape, and like I said, it's like it's just a lot going on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna get used to it, but over time, it's like I guess it's something you're just gonna have to accept. But to me, I think right now I prefer the WWE's US.
Well, hopefully we can, get accustomed to it because it's not going anywhere.
You know,
So that's disappointing. So the other big news, obviously, is the fact that the former champion, Kota Ibushi, who just won the belt, just got handed the belt, lost it to Will Ospreay. Dun, 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 dun.
hey,
So controversies, as the Brits say, controversies arise as Ospreay is, still being raked over the coals, RAKED, for blackballing a woman who accused a friend of his of sexual assault. That's the thing that people are still hanging over his head now, right or wrong. That's a moral issue that you have to deal with on your own. I know that if you're someone in that position where your best friend's being accused of something like that, normally you're going to side with your best friend. So I don't feel like blaming him on the same level as I would blame a Vince McMahon or, a Joey Ryan or apparently Deshaun Watson. Who saw that coming? But it's one of those things where I get why people are upset, but I also think there are greater sins in the world. And I've always been someone that I do not believe a blanket totalitarian approach to crime or offenses is the way to go. I don't think throwing everyone into the same bin is appropriate. You're actually going to throw Will Ospreay in the same bin as actual rapists? Like, no. Like, what he did at worst was negligent. You cannot compare that to actual assault. Like, you can't. I know people like to be hyperbolic in today's day and age, but, man, you can't do it. No, you don't need to like him. I barely like the guy. He's always had a bit of an attitude and an ego, and this is dated back to his days in Impact. But the problem is when Ospreay kind of, reneged on the whole Impact situation, everyone cheered him. They're like, oh, yeah, I love the attitude. But now the attitude's in front of you. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't like Ospreay. He's got an attitude. He became successful because of that attitude. You can't just now reject him for it. Like, that makes no damn sense. So I'm of the mindset that I don't mind that Ospreay is their new world champion. I think it made no sense to actually move the belt to anyone after, you just unveiled it and gave it to Coda. What was that, 4 months ago, 5 months ago? So, on one hand, yeah, it's cool. First British champion. He's got the Rev Pro title as well, and his new heel faction is the new heel factionness of the company. But now everyone's